Alright, so this is part 2 of putting together the Victoria Farmhouse. Go ahead and go to page 7. And page 7 is going to show you how to put together the foundation. So I've already marked mine as completed because I've already put the foundation together. So once you have completed putting the foundation together and that's all dry, you can move on to the next step. So before we start putting the walls up in the base floor, we're going to go back a step to where the gable foundation part, where we need to put the gable foundation on to here. We didn't do that at first because this needed to dry first. So now that it is dry, we can go ahead and take the tape off and then we can put the gable foundation on here. When you do that, as you can see, ours is not straight across, so you want to make sure that you put that further up when you do glue it down. So make sure it is all the way up, because there is going to be like this little gap at the bottom. But just make sure it's all the way up at the top so that when you put your foundation floor on, it's going to be flat across. So that's what we're going to do now. Alright, so you are going to want to make sure you have your grippers to hold the gable in place while that starts to dry. So once again, this part needs to be flat, and then this part needs to be flat. Make sure adjust it as needed. And no need to worry about any, like dry glue or any imperfections at this point, because this is all going to be painted and you're not going to be able to see any of this. But yeah, make sure it's flat across. It is there. Straight across here. We have that straight. And that is going to dry on there. Alright, so now that this is all on and dried on there, you're going to want to put the baseboard on top of here. What you're going to pay attention to is it's telling you to line it up with the back. So this needs to be lined up to the back with the foundation, and then on the left hand side you're going to have that also lined up. So on the right hand side there is going to be like a little lip hanging over. But make sure that the back and the left is lined up. So once that's all glued down and taped around the base floor and the foundation, you are going to want to find some small weights and just use those to weigh down the base floor to the foundation while the glue dries. Now this is where we're going to take a little turn. So I am not going to glue the gable front and the gable left side. I'm not going to glue those together, because I actually want to do it. I'm not going to glue those together. That's how it's supposed to be. If you want to access your dollhouse from the side, then yes, glue these together. But I want to end up accessing it from the front also. So I want to end up being able to open it here instead of open it from a little side over here. So I think this is yeah, I'd rather open it from this front rather than the side. So if you would rather open it from the front, then we are going to skip this part. And we're going to skip 10 and 11, and we're going to go straight to page 12, and we are going to put together the bay foundation because that's going to go in the front here. So we are going to put together the bay foundation, and then we're going to backtrack and put on the left side, and then we are going to, once again, the gable front is going to actually be able to open up so that we can access the dollhouse from a much larger, a much larger scale than on the side where it's going to be this. So I'd rather be able to access it from a larger scale rather than accessing it this way. So we are not going to glue the gable front to the gable left. So go to page 12. If you would also like to access your dollhouse from a much larger access rather than a small access on the side. And then we're going to find our bay foundation. So this is the side of the foundation. So these would be these two, and then this would be the front foundation. So we're going to go ahead and put those together. Alright, so the easiest way after you get your bay foundations is to go ahead and kind of like assemble it on the outside. Don't glue it in yet, but kind of assemble it on the outside to figure out how they go. So this part here is going to be eventually glued flat onto the gable foundation. So it's going to be like that. And then the same on this side. It's going to be glued eventually flat onto that. So you're going to have to arrange that first, I would recommend, before going in and gluing everything together. And once again, you're going to kind of just arrange that to where it's going to be at on the foundation. Now this part, the gable front, remember, we're not going to glue this, but we did go ahead and tape that together on the outside. And then if you see here on the inside, I also taped it in just so that we would know where to put the bay foundation at. So as you can see, I did put a magazine in it here because we did have sort of a gap, and when we're gluing this onto the foundation, we don't want that gap because it needs to be glued exactly where, exactly where at the top, basically. At the top of the gable foundation is where it just needs to be glued. So without this, it would have been, show you without it, it would have been way too short, and it's not at the top here. See that there? It's not at the top. So make sure if you do have a space, the magazine that came inside of the box was perfect to put under here to make sure that we got it glued in place correctly. So that is what we're going to do next. We're going to glue these together. Also, you're going to go ahead and look for the bay base floor, because after you glue these together, and you want to make sure that you have a flat surface, and go ahead and glue these together. You're not going to glue it onto this yet. You're just going to glue these together first. But with the bay base floor glued into here. So that's going to be glued into here. Okay, so that is, glued and taped, so we're gonna let that dry overnight. And then this, so this is the base floor. There was nothing under here to hold this in place. So what I am using is actually all the dividers, and then one of the eaves that I have. I'm using one of the 3 eaves on top of the dividers. And that is what we're going to go with because it's, I mean, there's still a little space, but it's the best that I can come up with to keep that in place. We are going to need to tape that down and make sure that that is flat across there. So like I said, there is going to be a little space. Probably use the magazine to slip under there also. But yeah, that is what we're going to use to glue this in place. Alright, so the bay base floor is glued to the floor. If you are not wanting to have the outside opening to open it to have access to your dollhouse from the outside, if you don't want the access on the outside, make sure you don't glue in where it has the sides here. Do not glue those in or you're not going to be able to open this access. So once again, we are going to have a bigger access instead of the smaller access to the front of the house instead of the small access on the side. So do not glue this in. And also, this is still taped, so make sure you're careful when you're working with this. But we just needed it just to figure out where the bay window would be at. So that is why we use that. Now that this is in place and glued to the space floor, just make sure this is flat, and we are going to dry these overnight. Alright, so while that stuff is up there drying, we're going to move on to the bay windows, and we're going to put these together. And these are self-explanatory on how you're going to put those together. So we're going to put that together also and have this dry overnight. So we got that put together and taped there. Just make sure that you are gluing everything in right. Usually the smallest boards are the ones that are on top, but I did have one of my sides of the bay window had a small one at the bottom here too. But usually it's the small one at the top. But just make sure that those boards are going, I would say they're going down. Make sure they're going down. And then glue those and tape those together. So that is also going to dry overnight, as well as the bay base floor and the bay foundation. So I just realized that Real Good Toys made a mistake. So you see how at the top everything is going down, right? And then on this side everything is going down. Well, even though everything is going down on the side, so it was glued in right, when you go to the bottom, they made a mistake and put these going up, and everything's supposed to be going down. So even if I had put this on, glued this on too, and I can still take it off, even if I had glued this onto the top, it's still messed up. So I think I am going to, I did take it off, but then I glued it back on, but I think I am going to see if I can get a replacement. Yeah, I am going to call them and get a replacement. But yeah, I think I'm going to call them and get a replacement, so we'll be back. So make sure you check that before it completely dries. Yeah, I don't think that happens too often, but yeah, I just went ahead and took it off, and yeah, I need a replacement. Alright, so I went ahead and put this back on because I'm actually going to be covering this up with like a faux brick look. But if you are not, then go ahead and call Real Good Toys. Just know that if they do send you a replacement once, they will not send you a replacement twice. So say if something's missing in your whole kit, then you will need to make sure everything is how it's supposed to be, because the customer service lady told me that they only send you something once. They will not send you, say you got a replacement for this because you are using the siding. So you did get a replacement for this, and say something was missing in one of here, basically they're saying they're not going to send you the missing piece because they already sent you the replacement, and they will only send something once to your address. So just FYI, if you do have a piece that's messed up or missing, make sure you go through the whole kit and caboodle first before calling them. But like I said, I went ahead and put this back on because after I realized what I wanted to do with my farmhouse, this is going to be covered up with like the faux brick look, or I guess not the faux brick look, but a brick look. So I will be using faux bricks to cover it up, and I'm not going to be having the siding on the bay window side. So I went ahead and put that back on since it's going to be covered up anyways. Next, we're going to go ahead and glue this bottom piece on. I did go ahead and take all the tape off of the base floor and the sides, and all the tape off in the front here. So yeah, this isn't glued in. We are going to glue this piece in. You glue that piece in, make sure you put a weight down and take up all the excess wood glue that was on the side here. So it needs to be glued into the base here on both sides. Make sure it's glued into the base, and then also I put some more glue on the top, just on like a centimeter in the top, and then held that down with the weight. So while that's drying, we'll move on to the side. Now remember, because I'm not gonna glue this piece on, it's going to be a piece that opens, we are going to need to put the side on first so that we can hook this up with the hinges that it came with. We're going to hook this up with the hinges so that we're able to open this piece instead of the side piece. So we got the gable left side, and we got the gable front. We're going to lay these flat on your working desk, and then you're going to go to page 13 of the booklet, and it's going to talk about how to hook these hinges up to the two pieces. The only difference is that it's going to say access bay. We're obviously using the gable front and the gable left piece instead of doing it the access bay front and the access bay piece. So this is going to, page 13 is going to show you how to hook up the hinges. Alright, so now that the hinges are on, it's going to look like this. I debated if I should leave these this color or if I should paint them white. I think I'm going to put some tape over it and leave it this color, or I'll just take them out and leave it that color in case I need to remove them. I mean, if you put paint over, you know, these mountains, it's going to be hard to unscrew it. So I think I'm going to leave it that color and just unscrew it when I do go to paint. But for now, since we need to move on, I'm just going to leave those on now and then take them out when it's time to paint. Next, we're going to glue this onto this. We are not going to glue it onto this because it's also going to be a part of it when it, well, I can't show you because I taped it down, but it's also going to be the part that swings out. So do not glue it to this, glue it to this. And I will show you how that works. I'm going to show y'all my setup. So before we added the weights, we had the tape here to kind of keep this taped to the base floor on either side. Then we added the weights here to keep this more secure on there, and then we added one in the front here on this piece to keep it once again towards this gable front piece. So we only glued this part and this part. So we only glued the sides in. We did not glue it down to the floor because once again it's going to open out. So if it's glued to the floor, it's going to be stuck. Even though this side isn't glued to the floor, this is glued to the floor, the whole thing is going to be stuck to the floor and we won't be able to open it. On the inside, I did put, well, inside outside, I did put some of these grippers in for more stability to hold this piece onto here while the wood glue dries. I put one on each side. So while that's sitting there to dry, I went ahead and added the whole right side clapboards. I just put the porch there in the front. It's not doing anything. So at this point we are done with the glue. So put that glue away. Now you're just going to be needing your tape, and then go ahead and get your lower right front, your lower right side, and then you are going to have two gable right side pieces. Here's one, here's the other. So you're gonna go ahead and tape one in place, and then I label the other one as the gable right side middle, because all my middle pieces, from like the middle floor, all those pieces are over here. And then all the attic and roof pieces are over here. All right, so we're gonna put the gable right side piece and tape that in place. You're going to put the lower right front piece overlapping the gable right piece and tape that in place. I have it taped on one side on the bottom, and then you're going to get the lower right side clapboard and tape that in place. Make sure it is flushed to the outside. Once again, this is just tape, so not as important, but make sure it's at the end, because we are going to be, as you can see, my lines are not where they're supposed to be. And then you're just going to tape these on the side is all I did here. So that is taped in place. And then we're going to do the left side. Okay, so for the left side, you're going to need these two side pieces, base side pieces. You're going to need the access bay base floor, the access bay front, and then the left side clapboard. So we're just going to end up taping the access bay base floor to this, like so. Once again, we are going to be taping from here on out. We are not using the glue. And then after we tape that, we're going to tape the left side clapboard next to it. All right, so boom, we got the left side clapboard up. I am holding it with some of the wood glue that we have put to the side, and then a piece of a roll of tape in there, and there's also some tape, but because it's taller than the one over there, it's not holding up pretty well with just the tape, so that's why that's back there. But anywho, so we got that put up, and then we got this taped down in the middle, and next we're gonna put the bay sides and then the bay front on with just tape. We're gonna try and do it with tape, but I don't think we're gonna be able to do it with just tape. But let's try. Okay. All right, so boom. All of that is, the left side is put together. So here, I did have to put some dividers on the bottom of the access bay front to hold that up in place. And then I did tape the access bay and the sides together. So that's what you see here. And I also put another tape from the access bay front side all the way to the gable. So once again, a piece of tape from the access bay front side to the gable, and then I got a piece of tape for the access bay front and the side. So that is how I am holding that together. And then this left side clapboard is not holding up good with just tape, so go ahead and get you guys a few 5-pound weights or whatever, and that is how I'm holding that up, because it's not holding up with tape. It's just not gonna happen. And then we have the access bay ceiling, something like that. And then we got the bay top. would look something like that. Once again, I'm not gluing any more pieces down because we still have to paint. So the first floor is complete. Half an inch or so on the bottom unfinished so that it will have the wood glue on that area, because you don't want to put the paint on where you're going to need to glue this down. So that is the main reason why I'm going to use a pencil to do my outlining, and then about, like I said, half an inch of the wood needs to be shown while I am painting so that I can glue the walls onto that unfinished wood. You don't want paint where you're going to be gluing down. So we're going to start that now. Okay, so I went ahead and put my middle floor piece in, and also the access bay middle floor in. I taped that down here, and the middle floor just literally fits into the slots here. So there's a slot here, and there's a slot on this piece as well. So that is on there, and we're going to continue to put walls up on the middle floor now. If you look down, you should be able to see. So yeah, you should be able to see where the steps will go. Okay, so we have our upper right side clapboard going here, and the reason why there's a door opening is because, once again, this is going to be an upstairs balcony. So that's going to go there. We also have our upper right front, which the lines we drew earlier looks like they're lining up pretty good. So that's going to go there. And then remember, we had our other right side gable right side. That is right there. So we can go ahead and tape that down, and that's all really, that's all the walls for the middle floor. Alright, so boom, the middle floor walls are up. So since the walls on the left side are already up, because we did that when we did the first floor, and which is why the left side clapboard is so tall, and also the access bay front and the sides, and then the gable here. So since we did all of that already, you only need to put 3 walls up for the middle floor. Now we can move on to the top floor, and I think they're calling this the attic. So moving up to the attic. Alright, so boom, that top floor is done. Now what we're going to be putting up is attic walls, attic partition, and then the roof parts. Alright y'all, so what I started with was these gable pieces. We got the gable left roof, and we got the gable right roof. I'm guessing it's supposed to look like this. And then we got a gable triangle. Not sure how we would tape this stuff together, but yeah, that's what we're gonna start with, the gable piece first, because that's the easiest to figure out. So as I was putting the gable triangle, as I was putting the gable triangle on, is what I meant to say in English, I noticed there were like these slits. Okay, come on, focus camera. I noticed that it had a slit in it, and so that is where your floor would go. So once again, it has this slit in the triangle piece, so that is where your floor would go. And then your gable roofs, it looks like those are supposed to be glued on to the gable triangle. So some of the roof would be hanging off, which is why we had extra. So yeah, some of the roof is going to hang off looking like that. And we're going to try and see if we can, you know, try and see if we can tape this down. Trying is the key word. All right, so basically, yeah, don't try and put the top part on with just tape. Yeah, no top parts, no added parts. Yep, that's what we got going on now. All right, so boom. That is literally one way to bring the house down. Literally bring the house down. That is one way. So do not try and put those added pieces and roof pieces up because, yeah, you'll bring your whole house down. I mean, if you want to go ahead and try, and in the meantime bring your house down, luckily none of my pieces were broken. You know, it is pretty good wood, but yeah, do not do that at home. But now that it is all down, we are able to move on to the next process, which is paint. Now, I did move the labels from the front to the back. I am not going to be painting the inside because I'm not sure what I want to do with the inside yet. Some of it I'm gonna want to do like a faux shiplap, and if I do that, I'm going to use like wood pieces to do that. So I definitely want wood on wood contact. It'll hold better than to do it on paint. So I'm not gonna paint this part or prime. I'm not gonna do anything to this part yet, the inside, because I'm not sure what I want to do with the inside, or if I want to add, you know, wallpaper. Once again, it's got a grease stain or something here. Once again, even if I'll add wallpaper, I still would want it on, you know, paper to wood contact. So yeah, move all your labels from the front to the back because we are going to prime, paint, and I believe sand. All right, prime, sand, and paint, or prime, paint, and sand. No, you wouldn't sand it after you paint it. Or do you sand, prime, then paint? A lot of people were saying to do prime, sand, then paint. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to prime, sand, then paint. I used to think you did it, you sand, prime, then paint it, but apparently I was wrong. So yeah, move all your labels to the back, and then we can go ahead and start the painting process. And here you can see I did not glue that in. It will be the way to open it to get access from the outside to the inside. We'll be opening this instead of that little opening that they had on the side, which is that big. And then we're gonna go ahead and take these off. Or should I just cover them? You know what, I think I'm gonna cover them. Yeah, I'm gonna cover them up. And then we'll paint around it. Just be extra careful around that part. Alright, so yeah, we'll start the painting. It's gonna be all white because the outside of the farmhouse is going to be white. This I also going to paint white, even though it's gonna have something different on the outside. We're just gonna paint it all white, just because. Alright, so that is our next step. Introducing Pre-Pre. So all the bells and dingles you heard, that was Miss Pre-Pre here. Miss Pretty Princess. So all of this is going to be white. And then I'm going to go ahead and paint or start the paint process on the base floor. So I'm not painting anything on top of here because it's going to be all wood, and of course it's going to be like a hardwood look. And once again, wood on wood contact is better. So I'm not going to paint, prime, or do anything with this. But on the outside here is where I'm going to paint. So from basically where the deck starts, we got our line still. It's probably be moved over a little bit. So anyways, where the deck starts to where it ends, which is basically all the way around the right side, and then the front here, I'm gonna paint that black. Now, do you guys know those, like, they're like diamond type skirts that are on like old farmhouses? They're usually white. Well, that's what I'm gonna do in the front here. So I'm gonna paint this black, and then I'm gonna do a little faux skirt in the front, the little diamond ones that you see on old farmhouses, usually because nothing is under it, you know. I'm gonna put the skirt on from the start of the deck to basically all the way at the end of the deck. So this is gonna be painted black. This is going to be looking like it's cement. There's lots of different paints you can use to make this look cement, and then of course you can go all the way around like they did here and make it all look like it's on cement. But realistically, old farmhouses that had decks did not have cement on the bottom. It was just, you know, empty. It was empty out here. So this had like a skirt or something was around there because there was no cement or nothing under there, to be realistic. So newer style, obviously there'll probably be like a 4, but we are doing a old farmhouse. So we're gonna put the skirt. We are gonna put a skirt around the whole bottom. So this is gonna be painted black, and we can start that. And then this is all gonna be painted white. So before we start painting, we gotta take a break and go to every crafter's favorite store, Hobby Lobby. Alright, so this is what we came for. 2 comes in a pack. We're going to need more than just 4, but we'll just grab these for now. So Hobby Lobby actually has a lot of things for this particular dollhouse kit. Now I know sometimes the windows and doors may not work how it's supposed to with this kit, but all of the things, all of the miniatures from Mayberry Street, the accessories and things, I will show you when we get to those parts in the next videos, but I did actually go ahead and get some more things than just the shutters. All right, so that was part 2 of the Victoria Farmhouse step-by-step and tips on how to put this together. Part 3 is coming up, and in part 3, we're gonna start the painting and putting it together with the glue. And as always, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell so that you don't miss the next notification when we start putting this dollhouse together and start gluing.